I'm Lynn, and here's what's happening at Ewetopia Farms. So we depend on these online sales. At a sheep show, they should be slick shorn all the way. But personally, I prefer the shorter necks. We try to keep as many rams around as possible. Buying online is very hit and miss. You get a precise thing, and the sheep don't even care. See? Let's get started. We're back from the cottage, and right away, Mike is really happy to see me. Hi, Mikey. What are you doing? Hi. Are you excited? You're a good boy. Let's go get you fed. So in today's video, I'm going to give a little bit of my opinion on the rams we chose and our sheep in general. And we're going to do some delicing on the last of the sheep that need delicing, so that'll be done for the year. And I'm going to tell you right away what it is that Arnie doesn't like about Hamish and Monty. Okay, so since Arnie wouldn't mention anything, this is Hamish. The fault on Hamish is that he's a little choked up on his back legs. He's standing really bad there, but it does show you that although his legs there, maybe you can see, but he's a little choked up on his back legs. And Monty, the problem with Monty is that he's a little sickle-legged, which means those back legs are pointing a little forward under his belly instead of being, excuse me, instead of being nice and level from the knee down. They turn in a little bit. Hamish might be a little like that as well. But, hi, you are lovely. You're lovely. The whole thing was just to get people looking at sheep and seeing what it is we're looking for. You got to realize we have 400 ewes here, and obviously you're not going to have everybody perfect, and that's the point. So you're going to try find the best you can find. We try to buy a lot of our rams, any that we buy in, from reputable sales and things like the Classic and some of the online sales. But if you're not there in person, the sheep you buy online may not be the sheep you would have purchased if you'd been there in person. But Canada is a huge country. And because we're farming 24/7, being able to travel the country to find the perfect ram is pretty well impossible. So we depend on these online sales, and it doesn't always work out for us. However, it brings in new bloodlines, which is always important, and it gives us a little idea. The problem with buying at shows is that the sheep are often groomed, like sculpted, so that there will any dips that you would have seen if you could have touched them and seen them, or if they were slick shorn, you would have seen right away. But at the shows, and you're seeing it on a camera, all dips are hidden, so you cannot see that. You can see what they would look like if they lived in a perfect world, but wool hides stuff. That's why we always say that at a sheep show, they should be slick shorn all the way. Their rumps, their backs, everything. Because as much as a judge can say they can feel a dip, the visual impact is the first thing you notice. And when you're feeling a whole bunch of sheep to see who is dippy and who is not, and who's got a little lump and who's indented on the side a little bit, or even legs, when people are positioning the legs constantly for when the judge arrives, it's very difficult. So you do your best, and when you're breeding your sheep, you try to match the ewes with the trait your ram is strong in, that maybe the ewes are missing, so that ideally you will get a nice lamb. So Hamish was bought online. Luther was bought online. Luther, someone said, I can't see him in here, but he's in here somewhere. He does have a few black fibers going onto his neck, but very few. So he was well worth it. To me, he's pretty well perfect. I mean, that's not Luther. Oh yeah, maybe that is Luther. So he may have a couple of little lumps on his back, like not super straight, but like I say, at the show he was super straight, and all sheep are super straight at the show. But he is walking on fantastic legs. Somebody thought he might be narrow at the front. I can assure you, he is not narrow at the front. He's got good width all the way through and good depth, good length. He's got a squared off rump in my eyes. So to me, Luther was a good purchase. And these two guys in here. Hi there, buddy. Hi, how you doing, sweetheart? So this is the Hilton Ram Legend. Arnie said that he prefers the other one. I prefer this one. People thought maybe he had a shorter neck, and he does. But personally, I prefer the shorter necks. Again, the longer necks are more a show trait. There is no value in having a neck for what sheep are for, which is the meat market. So most terminal breeds, if you look in other countries like the UK, Texels, Suffolks, most of the breeds you'll see will have short necks. And that's where they originated from. That's what they truly look like. What I think is that the long necks are coming around because the sheep in North America and Australia and stuff are being bred taller for the shows, not for individuals, because I can tell you nobody who comes to our farm and buys sheep wants the tall ones. So that is why we're trying to breed them a little shorter, because a lot of people think ours are too tall. And compared to the sheep you would see at the shows, they are quite a bit smaller. But I think if you chop the neck off on one of those tall sheep, they would look disproportionate. Like they would have those super long legs and the super long bodies, and then a short neck on it would really look silly. Whereas if you have a more British-styled sheep with shorter legs, fatter, rounder body, the shorter neck kind of fits in with the whole thing. So we're talking style, and one of our viewers who's an Ile-de-France breeder, he said the same thing, because again, Ile-de-France do not have long necks. It's another terminal meat breed. And so you wouldn't be looking for long necks as a trait. Another thing people talked about was the white hairs on some of the Suffolk's noses. That's just an aesthetic thing. Like, you don't want the black on. And for the shows, you'll never see black on a Suffolk's nose because they're showing lambs and yearlings. But by the time they hit 2 years old, a lot of them will develop little white spots like that. And it's not a fault. It's just like humans. Some people will turn gray in their 50s, and some people will start to lose their hair and turn gray when they're in their 30s. And that's all it is. It's a sign that they're aging. It's not a fault. It's not a spot that they were born with. It is age fibers that are growing in. So it's not a fault. When we're talking about conformational faults, we're looking at how the sheep is set up. Does it have a level back? Is it standing on good legs? Does it have the capacity to raise and nurse lambs? And for those things, you need good legs are number one, in my opinion, because they got to walk and they got to hold up these massively heavy bodies. And when they got lambs in them, they're even heavier. So those legs are prime importance, and that's something we've worked heavily on. And most of our sheep have good legs. They don't all have good legs. Like I said, we have hundreds here. It would be impossible. But we are trying very, very hard so that everyone has good legs, and we do select for it, but you overlook it sometimes. When you're looking at this many sheep, it's hard to always pick them out. That's why we like to look at them when they're at the feeder. It gives us a good idea of the top lines because we can see them all lined up. We can walk behind them and see that their back legs at least are set up properly, and we can see the width of their hips. And for us, we're mainly selling to commercial breeders, even though we have purebred registered sheep. So we try to keep the appearance very Suffolky or Dorsety and proper for the pedigrees. However, our prime concern is good legs and lots of muscling, because I can tell you we cannot sell them if they don't have those two qualities. We will even hold back some rams if they've got an evident dip on their back, like where it's anyone could tell, not where it's debatable. And the reason for that is they have a massive body with massive muscling, and those are usually the first rams that sell off our farm, commercial breeders, because they don't care about that dip. What they care about is the muscling. They want that to pass on to their lambs, and they're not keeping replacement stock. They're sending all those lambs to market. So if the lamb is born really heavy and really muscular and gets to market fast, that is the breeder's number one goal in purchasing those rams. And if the lambs had a dippy shoulder, a dip behind their shoulder, they don't care, because a dip on the shoulder is only a detriment if you are keeping replacement stock and all your ewes become dippy. Because again, like the legs, if you've got a sag in the back with the weight of her body, because we do tend to have high capacity sheep, which means they're really large, and with the weight of babies every year, if you have a sag there, that sag is going to get worse and worse and worse as they age. So that's why you don't want that. So you don't, definitely we look for that in our ewes heavily, but because we're keeping replacement stock and we're selling replacement stock to a lot of people for the ewes. But for the rams, we do let some slide because people are more concerned with the muscling, like I said. And back to the Sky Legend. Hi, sweetheart. It's so hard to not pay attention to you when you're here. I can see you guys are all wonderful. So I wouldn't... We actually loved everybody's comments. It was good to hear what people thought and what they would change, because there's always something and everyone has their own preferences. In general, I think our flock is a good-legged, high-capacity flock with good type traits. We can improve on some of the backs, but like I say, and buying rams in is very difficult for us because we can't really see the backs because the backs are hidden. And so are behind the shoulders, where sometimes you get an indent there around the shoulders on the side. So we do our best that way. And when we select our keepers, we try to select rams that improve on the ones we got. So I think, Legend, wherever he went. Where did Legend go? I don't know where he went now. He's not perfect, but I think he's really, really nice. One of my favorite ram lambs, well, he's not a ram lamb, but a ram lamb that we kept back. I think he's going to do well, and I'd be surprised if he doesn't have some phenomenal lambs in here. Same with this guy over here. This is Lieutenant. I agree. He is kind of lumpy. He's not dippy, but he's kind of got lumps. Like, he's not straight as an arrow. And again, he's not at a show, so he hasn't been trimmed so that he looks like he's straight as an arrow. But all his other traits, I think, are very, very good. And he is a substitute ram for us. The ram that we were going to use in there was perfect. You hate to say perfect, but he was just unbelievable. And we had him targeted for a whole year as being the new ram of the year that we were going to use. And he died like a few weeks before breeding season. And there's nothing we can do about that. So we took our second best. And that's a reality too. So that's why we try to keep as many rams around as possible. Because it's hard to buy in new stock that you can't actually touch and feel and walk around. And sheep die, so you don't want to be in a position where you have to just buy anyone. So that's what we try to do. And same with the rams in the coveralls. Some of them were bought online, and they are way too dippy. Muscular, yes, but dippy. It's we selected heavily on the ewe lambs from them, so that wouldn't pass on. And those ewe lambs that we kept with the straight backs from that ram will be placed when they get bred with a ram with a superior back, just to ensure that that doesn't keep moving on. And that's the best you can do, because somebody also asked, is it a good idea to keep a bunch of rams over, or maybe have them miss a year breeding because you're using different rams that year? And I said, for us, it's what we like to do for that very reason. Finding a ram in your vicinity that has all the traits you want is very difficult. So if you have a few of your own that for sure what they have, it's a lot easier, and you can kind of guarantee things a little better, because buying online, which is the most common thing nowadays, is very hit and miss for sure. So that's all I'm going to say on this anymore. Everyone looks for different traits. Our sheep all have different traits. We definitely want the sheep shorter necks too. And we want them muscular and walking on good legs. And we want their backs to be as straight as possible for sure. And we want wide rumps so that they can deliver these high capacity lambs, because we have big lambs. And we don't have too many birthing problems because the ewes have wide hips, and they're not slopey rumps, but if they tilt a little bit, it does make for easier lambing. And I don't think anyone, most people anyway, will not say that our ewes are slopey. That is the only comment that I didn't understand. Pretty well all the other comments that people made, I agreed with. So, we're going to go back to loving you guys instead of criticizing you now. Okay? Because you're all wonderful in your own way. Hi. Time for feeding, isn't it? Good girls. And there's Chewy. Oh, she was lying in a sunbeam, but she saw me. They know when you're focusing on them. Hi, Chewy. You're lovely. Right now Arnie's just finishing off the delicing. All the sheep will have had their double dose and should be good for another year. We've got the dogs waiting, very well behaved for the sheep to come out. The anticipation. This is Monty's group. Made a mistake. This is Matrix's group. Monty's over here with his group. Hi, Monty. How you doing? Looks like he's in love with someone right now. The nice thing about delicing is that it's a very quick job. You don't have to fight with the sheep because you just put it on their back in a little dab. So it's very speedy and it's basically a one-person job. So we got a Matrix's breeding group in here. Arnie's got all the stuff. The bottles come with a little squeezy that you squeeze it out and it measures it for you, but it's really difficult to read and it's very difficult to get accurate. So what Arnie does is he pours some of the liquid into a little container and just uses a little syringe to go down their back, and it's extremely accurate and extremely quick. And I would highly recommend it because the actual bottle is very difficult to use. And he can get a precise thing and the sheep don't even care. See? It's kind of like if you have a pet dog or cat and treat it for fleas and ticks and stuff. You put it on their back like that. It's the same idea. Too bad all things weren't just a little squirt on the back like that. See? And these are adults, so they're pretty good with the routine as well. It's always a good time to be able to see how your sheep are doing when they're in the chutes too. The sheep in the second breeding groups, which these are, were in the second groups because they were in a little poorer condition when they came off the pastures this summer. But I can see in this group maybe only one is not perfect yet, but the rest look in prime condition.
You think that's why Megan wants to shoot?
Why?
It goes pretty easy without a shoot. I don't know.
Yeah, to me, if you're going to have a farm, the very first thing you want to have is a chute. Doesn't have to be a fancy, expensive one, but it has to be some sort of chute. It just makes handling so much easier than having, I don't even know how people do it without a chute. So whether it's a homemade one or a cheap one or a used one or a fancy one, they're invaluable. Hi girls, you look snazzy. So another thing about the rams when we are sorting them into groups is they have to be unrelated. So that's the number one thing. And then when we're running two groups, it was easy with Monty and Matrix to sort out their groups because first we had to make sure they went in with unrelated ewes. And second, Monty went in with actually smaller ewes so they don't get too small. And Matrix, we tried to put in with bigger ewes because we don't want them to get too big. It's a juggling act. So these are other things you have to consider too when you're picking your rams and matching them with your ewes. You have to try to think what it is you want to accomplish from the breeding. Is it just meat lambs? Or are you looking to correct something? If your flock has all bad legs or a majority of bad legs, you want a really good-legged ram. If your flock is all dippy, you want to try to get as straight a top ram as you can. If they're lacking muscling, look for an extremely muscular ram. It's all these things, and the more good traits you can get, the better. We always try to purchase the very top rams at all the sales so that the odds will be in our favor, but as you can see, that doesn't always work either. Yarny just poured a bunch into a little container. And you saw how quickly the process goes.
The first thing people are going to say is, I have no gloves on.
Oh yeah, well gloves.
I'm not touching it.
Gloves, if you don't want to be touching it with your hands. It is a chemical, toxic chemical, but as long as you don't get it on your hands, you're okay. And that's why this method is really nice too. See how quick it is? If we had the bottles with the little squeezy top on that you can use, you would see how much more difficult it is. Like it literally takes forever. And Matrix will be coming through the chute soon. And when we tell you that he's a small ram, you'll see when he comes through here. He's not small. He's just smaller than some of our other rams. So here's little Matrix. He's looking pretty good. The other thing about when you purchase rams for sales, not only are they sculpted with their wool in a lot of cases, but they're also fed heavy for a show. Because of course, nobody wants to see a skinny sheep at a show. But you also have to realize that they're fed in a way that no normal sheep breeder would feed their sheep, because they would actually be considered a bit fat. But when you're fat, it also hides all the lumps and bumps. It's very difficult to pick good sheep. So we listen very carefully when we buy our rams at the shows to what the judges' comments are. And then when you get them home, sometimes you say the judge was bang on, and other times you think, what was he thinking? How did he not see that 4-inch dip in his back? And also what some people like the look of too, the appearance. Other people don't. So it's trying to find what matches your farm and doing the best you can. The absolute best way to find your breeding stock is to go to the farm in person and look at their flock. Because in general, when you walk into someone's flock, you get a really good idea of where they're going and how the sheep are raised and the quality of the sheep. Within, I'd say, 30 seconds of walking into someone's barn, you can see that. So I wish I could show you how quick that... Hey, you got 2 still in there, honey. Did you forget them?
What's that? Oh, didn't I know?
Sorry, girls. I wish I could have timed the whole thing. It took like literally 5 minutes to do 30 sheep. But he forgot to let these 2 out in his rush to get the other ones over. There we go. Back to your barn. Easy does it. Easy does it. See? No, we're not even moving, but they want to be where they belong. They're home. There's no place like home. That's what the saying says. Okay, so they're going back into their breeding group, which is the back of the barn on this side. And Leroy's group will be coming next, and de-licing will be done for this year. Guys just came in from pasture, so they're a little noisy, wondering what's going on here. They'll get to watch Leroy's group come across the yard. Exciting stuff. There he is, right at the front. Have fun, you guys? Were they nice sheep? I was just looking at Monty's group, and he's got an exceptional group of ewes in here. Here's Leroy. Gosh, he looks like his dad.
Come on, Bob. Come on, show him where the spot is. Come on.
He doesn't like that. There he goes. Didn't want to go in there. The Rems are the ones that don't like to go in the chutes. They know it's a trap. While Arnie's de-licing sheep, I thought we'd come visit these girls because they are so excited to see all this activity happening. Is it exciting? There's Big Betty's lamb. Hi, Nettie. Hi, you guys have a good spot on the hill. How you doing? Can I join you up on the hill? Would that be okay? Hi, you're a little curious. Are you Chewy's lamb? And how many of you have found some burrs? A few, I can see that. Hi. Do you have a burr? Do you have a bit of a burr on your head? If you let me, I could take it off. I could take it off. Hi, you don't have a burr. You have a burr. There. Hi there. Aren't they spectacular? That's a Dorset face. Anyone would know that she was a Dorset. Yes, anyone would know it. You have all the right traits. These girls are a little smaller than our Dorset lambs in the past because they're mainly from smaller rams. Next year we will probably be purchasing a new Dorset ram, and we do want him to be a bit bigger to put on these guys because we don't want them going too small. If they're too small, you're just not going to make any money on them. Hi. You need to have some size. But you look like a Dorset and you look like you're wonderful. these guys are done. Heading back into their pen. They know where to go. Some that didn't want to leave this barn, so the others came out. So we'll try this again. Stay here. Oh, we got a ram issue. He doesn't want to leave. He wants to see the new ewes. Hilton's son didn't want to leave the barn. Here he goes! Okay. The Hilton ram was a bit of a problem. Leroy, he wanted to go in Monty's group and the other group. He didn't want to stay with his girls, and I imagine it's because his girls are all bred, and he thought maybe there was fresh pickings in the other pens. We are back with Monster as Arnie cleans up the pen. Monster is like 2.5 feet wide. On a camera it's really hard to get that because cameras tend to thin things down unless you're at this level, and then you can't see the back. Hi, you're very well set too. But he's very wide ram. Well, that's it for another episode at Ewetopia Farms. Hope you enjoyed yourself here with us today and over the last few days, because now most of our videos take their compilation of a few days. And we're off to the hospital again because my dad is back in the hospital. And when you're 93, I think he is, 93, this is what you expect. He's doing okay, but he's back in there, so we're gonna go have a visit. So until next time, bye for now. Check out the merch store too. Christmas is coming and we got some new designs.